Fashion is designed to discredit what you have in your wardrobe so you can go out and buy something new. Fashion is a color. We're following fashion. We're not leading the way in fashion. Whereas style and elegance is an expression of your individuality. That's what we do. Sorry, you asked me a question and I told you a story. But my name is Andrew Ramroop. I am creative director of Maurice Sedwell and principal of Savile Academy. And I'm very happy, I'm excited to say that I am allied to the LGBT mandate and the impact the LGBT community have with our industry. I've actually worked in tailoring since way back in the middle of the last century. 1966 actually is when I started tailoring back home in Trinidad. Well, I got into the trade mainly, I think at the very beginning, is because I wanted to make clothes for myself. And then I discovered it's a viable career. I had heard of Savile, and like any young athlete wanting to be in the Olympics, I wanted to be on Savile. I wanted to be where the pinnacle of sartorial excellence is practiced. So I saved as much as I possibly can from that young age 13, 14, till when I was 17 years old, and I bought a boat ticket and I sailed to Savile. I got a job at a company called Anthony Sinclair. And after Sinclair, I moved on to Huntsman. I really wanted to get to the front of the shop. I was working in the back room at Huntsman. How do I get to the front of the shop? And so I actually signed up for a 3-year full-time degree at the London College of Fashion, the University of the Arts. I think diversity is very important because I do not believe that your features determines your ability. Your trade and your personality is two different things. And I don't see why there should be any kind of impact or any kind of adversity or any kind of adverse feelings about anyone who shows the ability and the skills to become a master tailor. We had the same situation with women not being allowed at the front of the shop. It had to be a man. Why? Why is it when a customer comes in, that a woman can't see to them, a gentleman? Why is it a person who is, gay? Why can't they be allowed to deal with customers? That is not because of their ability or inability. That is because of the lack of confidence in the business owners to give them that opportunity. There's been a lot of negativity. Coming from Trinidad, I did not recognize what racism was. I came from an environment where most of us are the same race. And I was not subjected to any kind of racism back home. So coming here, it was totally foreign to me. I didn't recognize it. But the first job I had at Anthony Sinclair, it was an advertisement out on the window that says tailor wanted. I went in, I got the job, started work. 20 minutes later, another guy, a white guy, came in asking for the same job. I was asked to leave, and the white guy got a job. And that's why when I finally saved as much money, entered the London College of Fashion, completed my degree, I came back to Savile looking for a job. Had 11 interviews. One of the 11 interviews with a guy called Deej, John Deej. John Deej said to me, he says, our customers would not take kindly to a foreigner. But if you wanted a job in the workroom, there's a place for you. After everyone else had placed, Maurice Sedwell called up the college and asked if we have any graduates. I said, yes, there's one guy, because I was the only one who didn't get a job. Then I got an interview and a 4-week trial with Maurice Sedwell. This month, 49 years later, I think I probably am still on trial. I think these companies, they just did not understand what it is to have a foreigner at the front of the shop. They did not have confidence in me. They did not have confidence in themselves. They didn't have confidence in themselves or whether they can keep their customers if they had a foreigner dealing with their customers. if their customers had enough confidence in them and they had enough confidence in themselves, then whoever you put at the front would be appropriate, would be fine. Because your customer coming to you for your reputation and your ability. That is what matters. Well, the positivity is really interesting. The pendulum has swung. Because now, the discerning customers, they think that if you are a minority, let's say, and you're successful on Savile, which is a very competitive environment, it means that you must be doing something good. You know, it's very, very interesting to be offered an award. Because when I first heard about the award was a letter from the cabinet office. And I thought, this must be really interesting. So I literally tore the envelope open and I tore the letter. In it, I had to satisfy 3 criteria. One is, I've got to say yes or no. It was my services to fashion industry. And the third, what is the third? I've got to be British. Those were the 3 criteria that had to be satisfied. And I replied by saying, yes, I'd be happy to accept if the award was to be given to me as a practicing tailor and not for my services to fashion. And the other one was that I'm very proud of my heritage coming from Trinidad. And if I were to be awarded as a Trinidad citizen, not as a British citizen, then I'll be happy to accept. What I wasn't aware of, it is Trinidad and Tobago is a republic. The Queen is not head of state. And a non-British person do not get awarded by the Queen. So I put a spanner in the works that I wasn't aware of until the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago called me up. And he said, Sir Andrew, he elevated me long before anything had happened, but he was so excited to receive this letter through the Foreign Office from the Prime Minister asking for his permission to award me. Now, fortunately, I am tailored to the Prime Minister. So, of course, he was very excited to say yes. And that's how I got the award as a Savile tailor and as a trainer of tailors at Savile Academy. There's an enormous amount to be recognized for what I have managed to navigate through the years. I have a great deal of respect and admiration for Quailors. Absolutely do. I think, you know what would be fantastic? And I've really thought about this. I think there should be a Quailors tailoring establishment. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think that's what Savile Row needs next. But I think if you have a Quailors bespoke tailor on Savile Row, that'll be fantastic. I see having a tailor's bespoke tailoring establishment on Savile Row as complementary and not as competition. Because I believe our competition are really ourselves. It's not anyone else and what they do. My competition is myself rather than another establishment on Savile Row. 1988, I took over Maurice Sedwell. I wanted to do something that was interesting but very wearable in a business environment. That's when I decided that the outside chest pocket has to be in harmony with the shoulder line and not opposing like everybody else does. That is when I decided that the angle of the pockets at the side could be slant, but the flap of the pocket could be straight to mirror the image of the shape of the front. I want to give the optical illusion of a smaller waist. So I broadened the shoulders ever so slightly. I broadened the top of the lapel ever so slightly. I don't want to give my customer a belly, so I don't want to give him a lapel with a belly either. So I want to keep the lapel slimmer and keep a straighter line. So the emphasis is the broadness at the top without getting it much wider by creating the chest, by giving a deep dart on the canvas and creating that silhouette to give the optical illusion of a small waist. So it's all of those values I brought to Maurice Sedwell to change the silhouette, the craftsmanship as well. My lapels all padded by hand, collars padded by hand, canvases padded by hand. Not everyone did that. They had machines padding the collars and lapels. Savile Row tailors, known Savile Row tailors, were using machines to pad their lapels and to pad their collars. That's a travesty, absolute travesty. I am absolutely, totally inspired by my heritage, my background. The flora, the fauna, the color. There was a time I wanted to get fancy linings. There were only paisleys in 4 different colors. There weren't any colorful fancy linings. And I used to go out in New York and I used to buy ends of silks, Italian silks. And I used to use those as linings. Then I started coordinating flower hole. I thought, men do not wear a flower anymore, so let's make a multicolored. So I got a multicolored flower hole and lapels. I had the threads commissioned. I can't get that anymore, but we can, now and again we get it multicolored, and if we can't get it, we actually take the white silk and we color it and make the buttonhole out of that. So it's unique. I became a member of the Master Craftsmen's Association, which is a tailoring association, the only one of its kind. Every year we have a luncheon and I would give a speech. And at the luncheon I would talk about the importance of training. The complaint I had from lots of members, mainly the committee, that when you train them they leave. So there was not any formalized training. And for me it was multi-skill formalized training. Not just doing an apprenticeship takes you 2 years to learn to make a pair of trousers, a year to make a waistcoat, and 2.5, 3 years to learn to make a jacket, or even longer. An apprenticeship for pattern cutting and so on. That goes on and on and on, you almost retirement age before you can say you genuinely master tailor, which master tailor is really pattern cutting, fitting and tailoring. And so after 7 years of trying to get training on the agenda and being turned down, I asked for permission to have a feasibility study on the trade. Feasibility study proved what I was arguing about. Young people are not coming into the trade. We're not making it attractive. The average age of tailors were, I think, 61. It proved all of the points I was making. I took it to the committee. I'm president. And they still refused. So I decided to resign as president. And I registered at Savile Academy in November 2007. And on the 8th of January 2008, I took in 6 trainees who could not get apprenticeships in Savile. I took 6 persons on a 3-year training course, multi-skill, bespoke tailoring course. One of them still works for me, because I believe that if you provide the training, the students and those who are willing to get into the industry, they're there. And today the Savile Academy have trained, when I last counted it was 411, and I haven't counted for a couple of years now. So I think we've gone in excess of 500 tailors we've trained at the Savile Academy. I think to any young person, not necessarily of color, any young person wanting to get into tailoring, you've got to first of all have an enthusiasm for what we do. Anyone can learn to sew. Anyone can learn to draft a pattern. But it's having that eye, having that taste, having that connection, having that emotional connection to what we do. Because that emotional connection that you have, it means that you enjoy. So it does not feel like work. Work sometimes is like the enemy. I've got to get up, I've got to go to work. It means if you get up every day and you want to go and do the same thing again and again and again every day because you're looking forward to it, it's because you have enthusiasm for what you do.